This conference will now be recorded.
Now let me start my class. I'm going to cover the first unit in this first session. The syllabus which we are going to cover in this unit is simply displayed here. The unit is linear wave shaping. In this linear wave shaping, we are going to cover the topics which are present here. These are the topics according to your syllabus. Now let me start this with the definition of this linear wave shaping. What is meant by a linear wave shaping? That you are already aware of it. uh, if you are transmitting any non-sinusoidal signal through this linear network, then the shape of this input signal is going to be altered in the output. That is called linear wave shaping, which means we are transmitting a non-sinusoidal signal through a linear network, then the shape in the output is going to be changed. That is according to the requirement. Now we are saying that we are transmitting a signal, a non-sinusoidal signal through a linear network. Then what is meant by a linear network? It is simply a network made up of only linear components. So what are the linear components or linear elements which are given here? They are resistor, capacitors and inductors. If a network is constructed by using these three elements, these three passive elements is called linear network. Now, what will happen if you are transmitting a non-sinusoidal signal through this linear network? That is simply given in the note point. So there is no change in the shape of output if you are passing a sinusoidal signal through a linear network. But if you transmit a non-sinusoidal signal, the shape is going to be altered, but nothing will happen to the sinusoidal signal except there may be a change in the amplitude and the phase of a signal, right? Let me explain what are the non-sinusoidal signals which we are transmitting through this linear network. So what are the non-sinusoidal signals? So these are the signals which are displayed here. Step signal, pulse input, square wave input, ramp input and exponential input. So these are the inputs that we are applying as a non-sinusoidal signals to a linear network according to our syllabus. Now you can see what is meant by a step signal. So this is the step signal. So for t less than 0, the input signal is 0 here. For t greater than 0, the amplitude of the signal is v. So this we are applying as a step input. For the time t less than 0, there is no signal. For t greater than 0, there exists an amplitude called v, that we can call it as a step signal. Now you can see the pulse input. This is the pulse input we are applying as an input to this linear network. When you are applying this pulse input, this almost seems to be like a step signal up to this point. So for the time less than tp, this almost seems to be like a step signal. But at t equal to tp, the input signal suddenly falls to 0. Then this resultant signal is called pulse input. So while you are applying this pulse input to a linear network, we are simply analyzing this with the step input signal. That is important. Now you can see the square wave input. You can see the square wave input for t within the duration t1, the amplitude is positive, and for within the duration t2, its amplitude is negative. So this is a square wave input. You can also see different types in square wave input, that is called symmetrical and unsymmetrical input. What will happen if you apply symmetrical input? What will happen if you apply unsymmetrical input? And then see the ramp input. So the ramp input signal is linear. So the input signal which we are denoting is Vi is equal to alpha into t. And similarly an exponential wave. So the exponential wave is like this. We can write the formula for this as V into 1 minus e to the power of minus t by tau, where tau is a time constant. So these are the 5 non-sinusoidal signals which we are applying as an input to a linear network. Then, if you apply all these signals, not all at the same time, one by one, if you are applying as input to the linear circuit, the shape which is shown here is not exactly the same in the output. So that is going to be altered. So that is why it is called linear wave shaping. Now let me explain what are the types of non-linear, linear networks. You can see there are two linear networks according to your syllabus which we are discussing. They are called RC low pass circuit and RC high pass circuit. Then what is RC low pass circuit is given here. What is low pass circuit? You can see if you are measuring the output voltage across the capacitor, then you can call it as a RC low pass circuit. Not like that, but you can define it in another way, like the low pass circuit is simply transmitting only low frequency signals. It just attenuates or stops all other frequencies, which means this circuit is allowing the signals which are low in frequencies. How can we define this is simply by using this formula. So the formula is given here. The reactance of the capacitor is here given here, which means in this linear network we are measuring the output voltage across the capacitor. If I write the formula for reactance of the capacitor, Xc is equal to 1 by omega c, that is equal to 1 by 2 pi f into c. Now what will happen if I substitute the low frequencies in terms of f? Then the reactance will become very high. When the reactance is high, then this capacitor acts as an open circuit. So the reactance of the capacitor is high for the low frequencies, so that it just acts like a open circuit. If you take a low frequency, zero frequency, then it is infinity. Reactance is infinity. It's just open circuited, so that whatever we are applying in the input, the same thing comes to the output. So it means if I am applying the low frequencies here, this circuit is allowing the low frequencies to pass through it. But if you are applying high frequencies, as I am going on increasing this frequency value in this formula, what will happen? The reactance value decreases. As the reactance decreases, it's simply becoming like a short circuit. So when it is short circuit, if you measure the output voltage, the voltage across the short circuit is 0, so that no signal is allowed if the frequency is high. In this manner, we can simply say that this is a low pass circuit. So this low pass circuit is allowing only low frequencies to pass through it, and it stops all other high frequencies. Now to this circuit, to this particular linear network. So this is a linear network. To this linear network, I'm applying different non-sinusoidal signals as the inputs, and we need to see what are the outputs that we are going to obtain after applying the non-sinusoidal inputs to this linear network. Now we'll see first. Let us apply what will happen. Let us see what will happen if you apply a sinusoidal signal. If I apply a sinusoidal signal to a linear network, the shape is going to be same both in the input and output. There may be a changes in the amplitude, but the shape, there is no change in the shape of a output if you are applying a sinusoidal signal. Excuse me. So this is a frequency response. You can see here it is allowing the only low frequencies here. If I apply a sinusoidal signal with low frequency, it is allowed. If you are applying with high frequencies, it is not allowed. You can see this is an upper cutoff frequency. You can understand this is an frequency response of a low pass circuit. From this figure, you can also calculate what is the value of the upper cutoff frequency in this. For a low pass circuit, you are having the upper cutoff frequency, but for a high pass circuit, you are having a lower cutoff frequency. Generally, if you want to calculate a bandwidth of this, you should have both upper cutoff frequency and a lower cutoff frequency. But in this case, for a low pass circuit, the lower cutoff frequency is 0, ideally 0, so that the bandwidth itself is a f2. So if I calculate the transfer function of this, or the magnitude of this, that means output voltage by input voltage. Now if you observe this circuit is simply a Laplace transformed circuit. In the previous slide, it is a normal circuit, but now here I am just converting this into a Laplace transformed circuit. So this is the resultant circuit. Now if I calculate the transfer function for it, then I will use the formula across this, voltage across this in time domain, and the overall impedance of this is simply calculated like this, so that I can simplify this for calculating the magnitude of this. So I will get a formula like this. Now if you see here, if I write this as a f by f2, this, if I write this as f by f2 whole square, where f2 will become 1 by 2 pi rc. So at f is equal to f2, this magnitude will become 1 by root 2. I may be shown in the next slide. Yes, you can see here. This is the formula. Magnitude of this will become, I can write it like this. if this f is equal to f2 here in this equation, then what will happen? This magnitude will become 1 by root 2. So if it is 1 by root 2, then this 1 by root 2 is equal to this. Then if I simplify and solve this equation, then you will get an upper cutoff frequency as 1 by 2 pi RC. So that is an upper cutoff frequency for the low pass circuit. If you are passing a sinusoidal signal through it. So one thing that you need to remember here in this slide is, if you are passing a sinusoidal signal through low pass network, there is no change in the shape of signal. Now let us move our discussion to non-sinusoidal signals. Now I am applying non-sinusoidal signals as inputs to low pass circuit. As the first topic, let us apply a step input signal, step voltage. So this is the step signal, and I'm applying this step signal as an input to this low pass circuit. What will happen if I apply KVL to this circuit? Then Vi of t is equal to this. Then if I differentiate this, I will get this equation, which means I'm going to find out the response of RC low pass circuit to this step input. So in order to find out the response to any type of input, we can have two different approaches. You can approach in a differential equation method, or you can use a Laplace transformation method to find out the response of a particular input. So I'm just following a Laplace transform method in order to find out the response of any input to a low pass circuit, right? So first, for that, I'm just using a KVL for this circuit. I'm applying a KVL for this circuit, then I'll get this. Then to this differential equation, I'm just going to calculate solution for it by converting this into a Laplace transform. See here, I am substituting in the previous equation. I am having a Vi of t. So this is the Vi of t. For this Vi of t, I am just applying this as an input. Something is going to be dropped across this, something is going to be dropped across this. If I consider some current I of t is flowing in this loop, then what will happen? The drop across this I can calculate I into R, and the drop across this I can calculate by using voltage across particular this 1 by C into integral of I of t dt. So by adding these two, drop across this and voltage across this, if I add these two, then that must be equal to the input voltage. That is what is indicated in this equation. I differentiated this, and after that I want to substitute the values for it. So Vi of t is equal to V, because in the step signal you can see here, for t greater than 0, this value the input signal is amplitude is V. That is why the input signal in this slide is simply as V. If I substitute that, then I will get a simplified equation. If I convert that into a Laplace transform equation, then I will find the equation like this. So these are the initial conditions. If I substitute the initial condition, then I will finally going to get an equation for the output, that is V naught of t is equal to V minus V dash into u to the power of minus t by RC. So this is the final equation that I am going to get. So V is the amplitude of the step signal. What is V dash? V dash is the initial voltage of it. So initial voltage for t equal to 0 will become 0. So maybe in the next slide I substituted that. You can see here the final formula that I can write for a low pass circuit, that is voltage across capacitor, is equal to V final, that is the final voltage, which means if the capacitor is having a possibility to charge to the maximum final value, to which extent it can charge, that is the final value. So V final minus V initial into u to the power of minus t by RC. So that I can substitute final value. You see, if you see here, this is the step signal that applied. If the capacitor is having a possibility to charge to a maximum value, it can charge up to V. That is why V final value will become V. So if the capacitor is having a possibility to charge to the maximum value, it can charge up to V. So that final value become V. V minus of V final again. V initial minus the capacitor initially gets starts charging at 0. So that initial value will become 0. If this value will become 0, then it is V into u to the power of minus t by. So if I take V common here, then the output voltage is simply V into 1 minus e to the power of minus t by RC. Now, if I draw the graphical representation for this particular equation by taking different t values, then I'll get a wave shape like this. Now, if you see here, this is the step input that I applied, and this is the output response. response of that particular circuit to a step input. You can simply understand and give a statement that if I apply a step input to a low pass circuit, then the output shape is an exponential curve. So the exponential curve, at what time it is going to reach to the maximum value. So that is according to the analysis. You can see I can substitute, you can go on substituting different values after 5 time constants. After 5 time constants, so here the time constant is simply the time which is taking to the output signal to reach 63.2% of its final value. That is called time constant, or in simple words you can say it is a tau is equal to R into C. So that how much time that it is taking to the voltage across capacitor to reach to the maximum, final value, that is to 99.3% is shown here. It is taking 5 time constants to reach to that particular level. So this is called the response of a RC low pass circuit to a step input. And coming to this, I'm going to calculate expression for the rise time. What is meant by rise time? As you are all aware of this rise time, the time which is taking to the output signal to reach from 10% to 90% of its final value. So the input gets starts at 0 and it is finally reaching to 100%. Now the time which is taking to this particular signal to rise from 10% to 90%, so which is simply represented here. So this is called rise time. So this is what we are going to calculate here. Rise time is calculated by using this graphical report. Excuse me. Now in this particular expression, in this particular expression, I'm going to substitute different values. So this is the graph. 10% of the final value means it will become 0.01 V. The maximum value will become V. So 10% of V will become 0.1 and 90% of V will become 0.9 V, right? So that is what I substituted in this equation. So at time t equal to t1, t1 here in the sense when the output signal is at 10%. So when the output is at 10%, the voltage is equal to 0.1 times V. So that 0.1 times V is equal to this, which I am substituting t1 here. This t1 is the output volt, t1 is the time, and the output is 10%. So like that, I am just substituting so that I will get t1 like this. And similarly, I want to calculate t2 when the output is at 90%. So if I substitute that t2, then I am going to get this. So if I want to calculate the rise time, then tr is equal to t2 minus t1 here. That is from t2 is the time at 90% and the output is 90%. t1 is the time when the output is at 10%. So 90 minus 10 will give you the rise time. tr is equal to 2.2 times of RC. So this is very important derivation according to your examination. Now I can also give the relationship between the rise time and upper cutoff frequency, upper 3 dB frequency, which I can call it as a F2. We already calculated F2. What is F2? F2 is 1 by 2 pi RC, which we already derived in the previous slide. So that if I use this formula from this, F2 is equal to 1 by 2 pi RC and RC is equal to 1 by 2 pi F2. Now we just calculated rise time, TR is equal to 2.2 times of RC. If I substitute this in this particular equation, then I'll get the relation like this. So in place of RC, I am substituting 1 by 2 pi F2. So 2.2 by in place of RC, 1 by 2 pi F2. So this is 2.2 by 2 pi. If I solve this, I will get 0.35. So 0.35 by F2, where F2 itself is a bandwidth for a low pass circuit. So that is a relation between rise time and upper cutoff frequency. Now I can see what is the time constant. What is the time constant that I already gave you? The amount of time that it is taking to the circuit or to the output to rise to 63.2%. 63.2% of the output of that the output reaches to 63.2%. Then how much time that it is taking to this signal is called the time constant. That in simple words I can say it is T is equal to RC. Now let us move to the next non-sinusoidal signal, that is called pulse input. What will happen if I apply a pulse input to a low pass circuit? So this is the pulse input. I am simply dividing this pulse input into two different inputs. I can see here this up to time t equal to tp. At time t equal to tp, the input suddenly falls to 0. So that if I divide this step input, pulse input into two different inputs, then it's like a step input, and this is like a delayed negative step input. Negative step input, and it is a step input. It's a negative step input, delayed negative step input. So this is a two parts. So this is also a step input. This is also a step input, which means this pulse input is a step input plus delayed step input. So which we are applying in this format to the low pass circuit. Now you can see here, I'm just giving the output shapes. If I consider the input signal up to this particular time tp, that means the time less than tp, this input signal seems to be like a step input. When this seems to be like a step input, I can simply draw the waveform, which I simply given here. So if I have a step input, if I apply step input, the output curve is an exponential curve. Now that is what indicated here. So for the time t less than tp, its input seems to be like a step input. So the output response to the step input is an exponential curve, so that it is exponential up to this point. Now at time t equal to tp, the input suddenly falls to 0. Then it seems to be like a delayed step input, negative step input. For that negative step input, the output is falling here like this. So this is also like an exponential waveform, but the input is a negative step input. So that is why this is an exponentially decreasing like this. Now you can see here the equations which we are representing here. For an exponentially rising curve, I am writing a formula V naught is equal to V into 1 minus e to the power of minus t by RC. And at a time t equal to tp, in this particular equation, if I substitute t equal to tp, then this is a peak value. Actually, we can simply increase it to another level, that is based on the time constant. So at time t equal to tp, this value, tp value, this maximum value will become Vp. So V into 1 minus e to the power of minus Tp by Rc, which means I am substituting Tp in terms of T, because I am calculating at T equal to Tp. Now for T greater than Tp, the output voltage is this. So V suffix P, it starts at Vp, V suffix P e power minus T minus Tp, because I am subtracting the time up to Tp. Then we'll get an expression like this. So what else? What means this remaining two graphs in this circuit? That is based on the time constant. So you can see this figure is indicating, the first figure is when the time constant Rc is greater than Tp. So what is this time constant? Time constant of the circuit. We are having R and C components in the circuit. If I calculate the product of R and C in that circuit, if that RC value is much greater than this Tp, then it is taking much time to reach to the maximum value. That is why in the first graph, it is not reaching to the maximum value. But if you see the second graph, the second graph is like RC less than Tp. RC somewhat, not much less than. You can also see RC approximately equal to Tp. Then the output curve reaches to the maximum value, right? Before reaching to Tp, it reaches to the maximum value. But if you see the third graph, if RC is much less than Tp, then the starting case, in the starting itself, it reaches to the maximum value. Then it is remains that maximum value and again falls like this. That is based on the time constant of the circuit. So if you multiply the time constant of the circuit, if you use the time constant of the circuit, if it is much greater than, then you have to draw the first graph, approximately equal to Tp, then second, and if it is much less than Tp, then we need to use the third graph. So that is about pulse input. Let us move to the square wave input. So this is the way of applying. I am not going to concentrate much from here, because you are now aware of how to applying the input to a low pass circuit. Now you can see here, this is a step input, square input that I am applying as input to this low pass circuit. This square wave input is almost seems to be like a step input up to this particular time. Again it's a delayed, again it is step like this, right? So for everything you need to understand how to apply step input to a low pass circuit. If you are aware of applying how to apply step input to a low pass circuit, and if you are aware of solving that, then you can apply whatever the input that you are applying. So the square wave, applying the square wave is almost like a step input, but if you are but you are having different timings here. So for the duration t1, this square wave is positive, and for the duration t2, this square wave is negative. So here in the graph, I am representing it as a unsymmetrical square wave. If I apply this unsymmetrical square wave, what will happen? I'm just explaining. These are the equations that we need to use in order to derive the output response. Why I'm using this many equations? Because the square wave directly not seems to be like a step input. Different parts. For time less than t1, it seems to be like a positive step. For the t greater than t1, it seems to be a negative step. So for I need to calculate it for two different durations, which means for t 0 less than t less than t1, t1 less than t less than t1 plus t2. So these are the different durations that I need to use to calculate the response. So if I use V01 is simply calculated for the first duration, V02 is calculated for the next duration. So these are the formulas which are using V final minus V initial into e to the power of minus t by RC. So that is the voltage across capacitor. So if I use these two, and if I substitute different timings, what will happen at exactly t1? What will happen at exactly t1 plus t2? So see here, V01 is the input voltage for the duration 0 less than t less than t1. But exactly at t equal to t1, V01 will become V1. That is simply represented in this graph. Now look at this graph carefully. The dotted lines are input signal, that is a square wave that I applied. If I consider the time constant of the circuit which I am using is much less than the overall time period of the square wave, then the waveform seems to be like this. Observe the second wave, you can get some clarity. You can see here, this is the positive step input. For the positive step input, this is an exponentially increasing curve. This is a negative step, this is an exponentially decreasing curve. What will happen at exactly time t equal to t1? This value is equal to v1. That's what indicated in the previous slide. But exactly at time t equal to t1 plus t2, this value is v2. So this is output waveform that is shuffling between V1 and V2 voltages, and the output amplitude remains constant after some cycles. So that this is the response. So the first one is RC much less than T, RC approximately equal to T, and the third graph is if RC value is greater than T. So this is the case. I can give the expression for the output curve like this. The next one is a ramp input. So what will happen if I apply a ramp input? So the ramp input voltage is Vi is equal to alpha into T. I'm also using the Laplace transform method to solve this. I'm applying a Vi is equal to alpha into T as an input to this low pass circuit. Then I'm finding out the response, the output voltages across the capacitor. So for that I am just writing the Laplace transform of this input. Input Vi of T is equal to alpha into T, Vi of S is equal to alpha by S square. That is the Laplace transform. So this is the output voltage, which means I'm almost like calculating the transfer function of this. The output voltage is equal to, so the input voltage into, I'm measuring the voltage across the capacitor, so that I will write the formula like this in the Laplace transform. And if I substitute the input voltage Vi of S, then we'll get it like this. So if I simplify this in Laplace transform, I will get it. And if I take the inverse Laplace transform, finally I'm going to get V naught of T is equal to alpha into T minus RC. So that is based on. So that if I apply a ramp input, then this is the output response for this. So if I draw a graphical representation to this particular equation, then I will get an expression, a graphical representation like this. So these two starts at the same, because if I use in the previous expression, if I go on substituting these values for different timings at the initial times, then you are going to start at 0. As you are going on increasing the time, the output wave is going to be deviated from the ramp signal, and you are going to get like this. So these are all going to be deviated from. So which means if in that particular equation, if you are going on substituting different time values, then you will get this, get the expression like this. And based on the RC value, if RC by tau value is much less than 1, if RC by tau value much greater than 1, then we'll get this. So these are the responses to a low pass circuit to different inputs. So for an exponential circuit, work on it and you'll get an expression and output shape for the exponential curve. So these are the different non-sinusoidal signals that we are applying to a low pass circuit, and we are obtaining the output shapes for it. So remember the shapes, how we are getting different shapes in the output if I apply non-sinusoidal signals. So very important question according as per your syllabus and your examination pattern. Explain how this low pass circuit, RC circuit, is acting as an integrator. That's important. So the low pass circuit, we are measuring the output voltage across capacitor. So if I write the output voltage V naught of t, that is 1 by C into I of t. I of t is the current in that loop. So I 1 by C into I of t dt. If I write the formula for I of t, initial in the initial case it is Vi of t, which means initially the capacitor acts as a short circuit, so that the current in that particular case is Vi of t. So very important to understand that point. Why I am writing I of t as Vi of t by R. Initially the capacitor acts as a short circuit. When the capacitor acting as a short circuit, then the current in that loop will become Vi of t by R, which means there exists only a R component in the circuit initially. So that is why the current I of t will become Vi of t by R. So if I am substituting this value, then this is the equation. So if I solve this, then it is 1 by RC into integral of Vi of t. Now if you observe this expression clearly, this output voltage is proportional to integral of input. This output voltage is proportional to integral of input. So that is why I can say that it is an integrator. As you are going on substituting different input values, you can find it, right? So what is the condition that we need to consider for this? So low pass circuit act as an integrator for the large time constant. If RC value is much greater than t for an applied input signal, then it is acting as a circuit. So that it is also called as a square wave to triangular wave converter. That is why I just gave here. RC integrator converts a square wave into a triangular wave. So if you want to apply a square wave as an input to a low pass circuit, and if you observe the output shape, it seems to be a triangular wave, which we already shown in the third case of a square wave input. If I apply square wave input, the third case, if RC is much greater than t, then the output shape seems to be like triangular wave. So that is about a low pass circuit. Now let us move our analysis to a high pass circuit. So there is a changes in the locations of a passive components, linear components. Capacitor in place of resistor, I am placing a capacitor. In place of capacitor, I am placing a resistor. So if I interchange the components, then the resultant circuit is called a high pass circuit, which means I am measuring the output voltage across resistor in this case, right? So I can also define in why this is called a high pass circuit. This high pass circuit is allowing only high frequency components, high frequency signals to pass through it, and it attenuates or stops the low frequency components. Why? You can check here by using the reactance of the capacitor. For the low frequencies, the reactance is very high. If the reactance of the capacitor is very high, it works like an open circuit. When this is an open circuit, if you are applying something here, if this is open circuited, nothing is transmitted to the output because this gets open circuit for the low frequencies. So which means it is not allowing the low frequency signals to pass through. But if the frequency is high, then the reactance will become low because these two are inversely proportional. If the reactance is low, it just works like a short circuit. It allows whatever the signal which you are applying here comes in, which means this circuit is allowing high frequency signals to pass through it. That is why it is called high pass RC circuit. Now in a similar manner, let us see what will happen if you apply different inputs, different non-sinusoidal signals as well as sinusoidal signals. So if you apply sinusoidal signal, there is no change in the shape of output. The output signal is also a sinusoidal signal, so there is no change. And now I can see the value of lower cutoff frequency. For a high pass circuit, you are having a lower cutoff frequency. If I calculate the transfer function, then I will get it like this: output voltage by input voltage. By converting the circuit into a Laplace transformed circuit, this is the output voltage. So if I am calculating the output voltage, I can simply calculate current multiplied by R will give you the voltage across this. So current is I of S and into R. So that is what given here. So that is simply given in the form of this. So output voltage is equal to, I can write Vi of S into R by R plus 1 by Cs. So if I solve this, then I am going to get this. If I get the equation for lower cutoff frequency, F1 will become 1 by 2 pi RC like previous case. So this is F1 is the lower cutoff frequency of a high pass circuit, that is also equal to 1 by 2 pi RC. Now let me explain what will happen if I apply a step input to a high pass circuit. So it is like a previous expression, previous low pass circuit. I am applying a step input signal. If I am applying a step input signal, you can see here this gets exponentially decaying output curve. I am applying a step input here, but in the low pass circuit, it is an exponentially increasing. If the time t equal to 0, input is 0, output is also 0. But at time t is equal to 0, the output starts at maximum value. So this is an exponentially decaying curve. So as the time is almost half of the time, half an hour completed. So it is taking much time. That's why I'm just giving the shapes of an output. So if I apply a step input signal to a high pass circuit, then the output shape is an exponentially decaying curve. For RC value is large, then it is like this. If it is medium and if it is large, then this is the output shape, step response for it. So you are not supposed to give it directly, you need to use expressions. So what will happen if I apply input? Input is Vi is equal to, for t greater than 0, it is V, for t less than 0, it is 0. If I apply that, if I apply KVL to that circuit, we'll get an expression. From that expression, if you substitute the input, we'll get it. And if you use the Laplace transforms, you will get the equation, final equation for it. That is V into e to the power of minus t by Rs. So this is an expression. Similarly, for the pulse input, you can see here, for the pulse input, it is almost like a square step input. Up to time t equal to tp, this is like a pulse input. For the pulse input, I am applying a signal here. If I apply pulse input, like previous case, I am taking this case. If RC value is almost large, then it seems to be like this is an exponentially decaying curve. As RC value is very much large, then it seems to be like a straight line. Then this is the case which I used here. So this input signal, if RC value is very high, RC value is greater than TP, then it is a straight line. Then I will get it like this. So at time t equal to TP, the input suddenly falls to 0. The output is also suddenly falls by the same amount. So how much amount this input is going to be dropped? Suddenly falls to 0, an amount called V. The output is also suddenly falls by the same amount called V. That is why from the point Vp, from this maximum value V suffix p, the output suddenly falls by an amount called V. So whatever the amount that input is suddenly falling, that is called V, the same amount is simply dropped in the output also. So that is why V suffix p minus V. So the output falls by the same amount in this term. So if I use different time constants, if RC much greater than TP, then the first diagram. If RC is comparably equal to T, then the second. If RC is much less than T, then the output shape seems to be like spikes. These are called spikes, which means the output falls to 0 before the completion of a pulse width, and it remains 0 there up to TP. At exactly TP, input suddenly falls to 0. The output is also suddenly falls to 0 by the same amount. Which means if we calculate here, the amplitude of this positive spike is V and the negative spike is minus V. You can see 2V as an amplitude. That is the shape. Now similarly, if you apply the square wave to this, then what will happen? So what you need to understand here is, first concentrate on step input. If you are able to understand how you are getting the response to your step input, you are able to give the response to uh, remaining inputs. See, let us apply the square wave. This is an unsymmetrical square wave. If I apply an unsymmetrical square wave to this, then what will happen? It is like a step input signal. So it is simply initially falling it seems to be a step signal up to time t1. It is simply decreasing here like this. But at the time t equal to t1, it suddenly falls. Output is also suddenly falling. Now it seems to be a negative step. It is simply rising up to this v1 dash, not v1 dash. It is v2 dash, and the input suddenly rises to V again, so the output is also rising. So for the different time constants, if the RC value is much less than T, then you are going to get the spikes in the output. So this is the response of RC high pass circuit to a square wave input. So these are the expressions that we need to use to calculate output shape. V01 is the output voltage for the duration 0 less than t less than t1. So v01 is equal to v1 into e to the power of minus t by rc. That is for this particular location. And in the next case, you can see at exactly time t equal to t1, v01 will become v1 dash. That is substituted here. So like that, substitute all the cases so that you will get the wave shape. The final thing is, you need to substitute your time values in that expression in order to get the final shape of the wave. Now, this is very important question, that is expression for the percentage tilt. So he's giving what is meant by a percentage tilt. This means when you are applying a square wave, the output seems to be a distorted wave, which means you can see here in this location the output gets distorted. How much amount, how much percentage the wave gets distorted, that's need to be calculated. So that percentage tilt is simply calculated by using the formula which is given here. Percentage tilt P is equal to V1 minus V dash by V by 2. What is V1, what is V dash is simply given in this graphical representation. V1 is the positive peak of an output curve, and V dash is simply given here. V dash is the location where this curve reaches to this particular place, and V by 2 is the half of the amplitude of the input signal. V is the total amplitude, V by 2 is the half of the amplitude of it. So if I solve this, if I calculate the parameters for V1, V1 is the positive peak and V1 dash is the a location at time t equal to t1 where this output curve drops to v1 dash. So this is v1 minus v1 dash by v by 2 into 100, because we are asking percentage tilt, that is multiplied by 100. If I use this formula and if I solve it, then I'll get an expression for the percentage tilt like this. So the percentage tilt is in terms of frequencies. Lower cut of frequencies is simply given as pi into f1 by f into 100. Or otherwise I can also write in terms of t like this: p is equal to t by 2 rc into 100. This is a percentage tilt. So this is very important derivation or an expression for your exams. So let us move our discussion to your ramp input. So what will happen if I apply a ramp input to this? So if I apply a ramp input, then I'm going to get the shape. For everything, I need to apply KVL, applying KVL, and after applying the KVL, I need to find out the transfer function. If I calculate the transfer function, I will get a final response, output response for this. So V naught of t is equal to, we'll get alpha RC into 1 minus e to the power of minus t by RC. So in this expression, if you substitute different times, as you are starting from 0, as you are going on applying this value, then you will get output shape for it. Then the output shape is like this. You can see here from the starting, the output curve is following the input up to some extent, but as the time going on increasing, it is just going to be deviated from the input curve. But in the starting time, the output follows the input like a linear wave, but as the time increases, the output curve is simply going to be deviated from the input. So for the large time constants, maybe in the less time itself only it is going to be deviated from the output. So how will you get this shape? By substituting the values in this expression. So if you substitute the values of t in this particular expression, you will get the output shape for this. Similarly, in exponential curve, so if you apply exponential input to this output curve, high pass circuit, you are also going to get different shapes for an exponential curve. These are also seems to be like an exponential, but as the time increases, the exponential curve falls to 0 for different values of n. So what is n is simply given to you in your normal derivations in your regular classes. So go for n value, refer what is n value, and you can simply apply n values to get the shapes of this. So this is what the output shape for an exponential curve. So exponential curve is very important, and this is lengthy derivation, which is not possible to show here. That's why refer your running notes for the derivation of it.
Mr. Vijay, sorry to interrupt.
Sir. Sir.
Yeah, I just want to address the students. See, my secondary ECA kada Vijay ఇది
అవును సార్.
సెకండరీ ECA స్టూడెంట్స్ ఏందా మీరు? మేము మీకోసం స్లైడ్స్ అవన్నీ ప్రిపేర్ చేసి మేమంతా 50% ఏంటి కామెడీగా ఉంది జనాలకి. ఏమన్నా గట్టిగా చెప్పండి. గ్రూపుల్లో ఫేస్బుక్ లోను పబ్జీలు ఆడడానికి మాత్రం ఇంటర్నెట్ కనెక్షన్ ఫోన్లు అవైలబుల్ గా ఉంటాయి. క్లాసులు అటెండ్ అవ్వడానికి కష్టమా? పొద్దున గంటన్నర, మధ్యాహ్నం గంటన్నర. ఐఎమ్ వ్యూయింగ్ దిస్ వెరీ సీరియస్లీ.
Less than 50%, sir.
అదే, దిస్ ఇస్ నాట్ హౌ థింగ్స్ ఉంది. ఏమన్నా ఇన్ఫార్మ్ యువర్ ఫ్రెండ్స్. పక్కకి జాయిన్ అవ్వండి. గంటన్నర స్పెండ్ చేయలేదు పొద్దున పూటను, గంటన్నర మధ్యాహ్నం గంటన్నర. ప్లీజ్ కంటిన్యూ.
Okay, thank you. Let me explain how a RC high pass circuit act as a differentiator. As we already discussed how a low pass circuit act as an integrator, in the same manner we are going to prove how this high pass circuit act as a differentiator. You can see the current in the circuit, or the current that is in the circuit is simply calculated as C into dVi by dt. We all know this formula. If you know this formula, and if you write the output voltage, because we are calculating the output voltage across resistor in a circuit, then this output voltage is proportional to derivative of the input. So that you can see output voltage is proportional to the differentiation of the input. That is why this circuit is called a differentiator. This equation comes from the circuit called high pass circuit. If you see the high pass circuit, and if you calculate the current in that circuit I of t by using this formula, and if you substitute that here in this equation, because we are measuring the output voltage across resistor, right? So output voltage across resistor is calculated. So the output voltage is equal to I of t into R. So I am substituting I of t as C into dVi of t by dt. Then this output voltage is proportional to the derivative of the input, so that I can call it as this high pass circuit as a differentiator, right? So not always the high pass circuit is not acting as a differentiator always, but on one particular condition, that is called if the time constant of the circuit is very much less than the time period of the input. So that is the very important point. So if you want to make a low pass circuit to act as an integrator, we need to maintain one condition, that is the time constant of the circuit must be high. In the similar manner, if you want to make this high pass circuit to act as a differentiator, you need to maintain the time constant less compared to the input time. So that is the condition. So the high pass circuit is not always a differentiator. It acts as a differentiator at one condition. So that condition is important. So that is the main thing. The main thing comes to an end from this first unit. So that is the concept. And the first unit is applying all 9 non-sinusoidal signals to linear circuits. So the linear circuits which we are using as low pass circuit and a high pass circuit, we applied five different non-sinusoidal signals to a low pass circuit and five different non-sinusoidal signals to a high pass circuit, and we obtained the output shapes for it. If you observe the output shapes of the all inputs, they are all not same as input. Means the output shape is going to be altered when compared to the input. That is why they are called linear wave shaping. In linear wave shaping, the output shape alters when compared to the input. That is why it is called linear wave shaping. So the next topic in this unit is attenuator. You all know it's attenuator. Whatever the signal which we are applying here. For example, if I am applying a sinusoidal signal as an input to this attenuator, in output, the amplitude of the signal is going to be reduced. So that if you calculate voltage across this circuit, I can simply use it as, how can I calculate? It is V naught is equal to how can I calculate R2 into VI by R1 plus R2? I can simply calculate the current in this circuit as VI by R1 plus R2. So that I into R2 will give you voltage V0. So V0 is equal to I into R2. What is I? VI by R1 plus R2. So that I can write V0 is equal to VI into R2 by R1 plus R2. So VI multiplied by R2 by R1 plus R2. So R1, R2 by R1 plus R2 is the ratio. This value is less than 1. So if the less than 1 value is multiplied with input, so that it seems the output voltage is less than input, which means the amplitude of the input signal is going to be reduced if you apply some signal to a attenuator. So the amplitude is going to be reduced. So that is thing that we need to understand in the attenuators. So see here, but for any circuit, there exists a stray capacitance. You already know about it. So what is meant by a stray capacitance? There exists a stray capacitance in any circuit. When you are connecting one wire with another wire, there exists a default capacitance, which we can call it as a stray capacitance, which is not possible, which is actually a less value, which is negligible in general. But the minute times comes into the existence, then we need to consider this stray capacitance. So what will happen if we consider this stray capacitance into the existence? So already this C2 is called a stray capacitance. We are showing it in our circuit. This is actually not connected circuit. This is a default existing, which we can call it as a stray capacitance. So there exists a impact. There exists some variation in the output because of this stray capacitance, which we need to be nullified, which we need to be reduced, which we need to be compensated. So the effect of this C2, 100% there exists the effect of this C2 in the circuit, which we need to reduce that. So in order to reduce this, we need to compensate this capacitor C2 by shunting another capacitance across this. So that I can see here, I'm representing a equivalent resistance of R1 and R2 as R, and I'm just representing C2 is like this in this circuit. If I want to compensate this circuit, I will look at this. I'm just shunting, connecting a capacitance C1 across R1 in order to compensate the effect of C2. C2 is the capacitance which is not connected externally. It is existing default, that we can call it as a stray capacitance. The effect of that C2 can be nullified by connecting a C1 across this. So under balancing conditions, if you maintain balancing conditions, that effect is going to be reduced, which is simply explaining here. So that see here, if R1 C1 equal to R2 C2, this is called bridge balancing condition. So if you maintain the balancing condition, then you are going to see this effect. So this is the V naught of 0 plus, which means initial condition. Initially, what is the output voltage? At time t is equal to infinity, what is the output voltage? So see here, in this circuit, the output voltage at time t equal to 0 plus, immediately after t equal to 0, then the output is completely depends on the capacitance. So the resistance effect is going to be reduced. But at time t is equal to infinity, the dominating parameters are resistance here. So that you can see here, in one case resistances are dominating, in one case the capacitances are dominating. You can see here some Yes. You can see here different compensations here, how to compensate. For example, if you see here, this is the capacitance C1 which I am connecting. This is physically connected, where C2 is not physically connected. C2 is the stray capacitance that is existing default. C1 is the external capacitance connected by me. So this is a variable capacitance. I can vary this capacitance until I am going to get a balancing condition in the circuit. So if I get a balancing condition, if I am not maintaining balancing conditions, what is the output shape if I apply some signal? For example, if I apply a step signal to the attenuator circuit, see here, this is the amplitude of the input signal, but in the output signal, the amplitude is going to be reduced. That satisfies the definition of a attenuator. It gets reduced. So this is called perfect compensation. So perfect compensation comes into the existence if you are maintaining the balance condition. That is called you need to connect the C1 in such a way that R1 C1 must be equal to R2 C2, so that you will have a reduced amplitude. That is called perfect compensation. But in case if you are not maintaining the balancing condition in the circuit, which means if you are connecting C1 in such a way that in such a way that R1 C1 value is much greater than greater than R2 C2 by R1, which means you are not maintaining the balancing conditions and you are taking C1 value greater than R2 C2 by R1, then there exists a overcompensation like this. So in the time t equal to 0 itself, the value reaches to maximum and then it's going on falling and it remains in that constant level. So this is overcompensation, which means we are not maintaining the balancing condition. In the last case, last case is undercompensation. In this undercompensation, we are maintaining C1 value less than R2 C2 by R1. So that is why you are going to get this. So these are the three graphical representations for different values of C1, because C1 is a variable resistance connected by me in order to maintain balance conditions. So if you are maintaining the C1 value perfect, so that you will get perfect compensation like this. That satisfies attenuator. Next comes RL circuits. You are all having an idea of RC circuits till now. We are moving to RL circuits. We need to replace all the components. Suppose the capacitor C and R in RC circuit is replaced by R dash and an inductor L respectively, which means C need to be replaced by R dash and R need to be replaced by L. Right? You can see clearly here the capacitor C need to be replaced by R dash, which means R dash here means it is a C in our RC circuit, and L here in our circuit is like resistance. So resistance and capacitors. So it is called L and R dash, but it is actually R and C in RC circuit. So if you replace R with L and C with R dash, then it is called RL low pass circuit. So RL low pass circuit is similar like RC circuit, except the components are simply replaced here. The procedure of applying all the non-sinusoidal signals to this particular RL low pass circuit is similar to RC low pass circuit. The only difference that we need to identify or to note is interchange of the components. Resistance is replaced by L, capacitance is replaced by R. So like that you can see the time constant in that RC circuit is RC, but the time constant in this RL circuit is L by R dash. So this is the way how we are understanding this RL circuit. The remaining process is as it is like a RC circuit, right? Try to understand. We are using two components called inductor and resistance here. We are not using any capacitance here, so that is why this is called RL circuit. The remaining procedure of finding the output shapes for all the non-sinusoidal input is like RL low pass circuit. So this is RL high pass circuit. The components are interchanged here. This is actually a capacitor in RC high pass circuit, and but it is a R dash in RL low high pass circuit. This is a resistance in RC high pass circuit, but it is a inductor. The remaining process is similar to that particular case. Now move to RLC circuit. RLC circuit, we are placing R and L RLC circuits. And you can see the different shapes for step input. If I'm applying a step input signal, then I'm going to get different shapes for it. It's like how we are applying, but we need to calculate the current in this circuit. We need to apply the KVL in this circuit. if you apply KVL and if you measure the output voltage across this particular capacitor to a step input, these are the things that we are going to observe. So if you get the output shape like this for different values of input, then it is underdamped, critically damped, and overdamped according to your shapes. So not much needed to concentrate. So try to understand these shapes for different inputs. The input which we applied here is a step. So this is a series circuit and this is a parallel circuit like this. So this is unit number 1. So the unit number 1 is about linear wave shaping, which we concluded now. The linear wave shaping, we need to concentrate much on low pass and high pass circuit. What will happen to the output shapes for different inputs, and similarly RLC attenuators, RL circuit and RL circuits. Just concentrate much on RC step input so that you can understand the remaining things in the slides. So that is about unit number 1. Actually, I'm interested to explain some of the important questions posted in your binder, but it took almost 1 hour to me to complete this unit. That is why let me move on to the second unit. Durga Prasad garu.
Yes, sir.
Sir, clear gaane unda voice?
అవును సార్ క్లియర్గా ఉంది.
Okay, let me go to the second unit, that is called non-linear wave shaping. The syllabus which we are going to discuss in this unit is like this. The most thing that we are concentrating on this unit is clippers and clampers, diode clippers, transistor clippers, emitter coupled clippers, and different types of clampers. So these are the contents according to your syllabus. So what is meant by non-linear wave shaping? If you understand what is linear wave shaping, you can easily understand non-linear wave shaping. The shape is going to be altered in your linear wave shaping, but in the non-linear wave shaping, what will happen? If you are applying some input, some part of the wave is going to be distorted, removed, eliminated, that is as per the requirements. So you can see the definition of it. The process of producing non-sinusoidal output waveforms from the sinusoidal input, which means మనకి linear in your linear wave shaping, if you apply a sinusoidal signal, the output shape is a sinusoidal signal. But in the non-linear wave shaping, if you apply sinusoidal signal, some part of the sinusoidal signal is going to be removed, eliminated. That is called non-linear wave shaping, right? So in non-linear wave shaping, we are going to study about the clipping circuits and clamping circuits. Let me move on to clipping circuits. What is a clipping circuit? Clipping circuit means it is simply removing some part of the input waveform in the output. That's why they are called as voltage limiters. If you are applying some voltage in the input, in the output, it is going to limit the output, which means the amplitude of the signal is going to be reduced because of the removal of some part of the signal. So that is called clipping circuit. So the main thing that we need to understand in this is, in linear wave shaping, we are simply working on linear components like resistor, capacitor, and inductor. But in the non-linear wave shaping, we are concentrating on non-linear components, which are something like diode and transistor. So diode and transistor are the main components in this non-linear wave shaping to understand. So these active components are used for clipping some part of the input wave in the output. So that is the thing that we need to understand. So the thing that we need to understand in this clipping circuits is diode clippers. In this diode clippers, diode is the main component to clip the input. You'll see different clippers, series clippers and shunt clippers. In the series clippers, we are going to see two different clippers, like positive clippers and negative clippers. Excuse me. And in the series clippers again, with and without reference voltages. And in the shunt clippers also, we are going to study with and without reference voltages. Let me. Students, I request you all to concentrate on the output waveforms. I may be wrong in giving the output shape. Just notify me if I am doing anything mistake in these slides, because all these things are simply done and pasted here. If I did mistake in preparing these slides, just let me know. Let me see the first one, that is series positive clippers, which means diode is connected in series with resistance. Diode is a non-linear element here, so that I am applying a sinusoidal signal with a peak-to-peak amplitude of 2 Vm. Positive peak Vm and negative peak V is minus Vm. So that this is the sinusoidal signal that I am applying as an input to this, right? So let us check when this diode comes to forward bias and when this diode comes to reverse bias condition. For example, if I am applying a positive half cycle, for the positive half cycle, I am applying this side. This is positive. The input is moving more positive. I don't know whether you are able to see my mouse pointer in your slides or no, but let me show here. When I am just increasing this signal positively, this positive signal is applied here. That means cathode is taking more positive than negative. It is on the anode side, it is like grounded. It's a 0 volts is applied on this side, but in the positive half cycle, this going on increasing. So the more high voltage is applied on this cathode side than negative side, so that this diode is in reverse bias. So for the positive half cycle, the diode is in reverse bias condition, which means it is open circuited. When this is open circuited, is nothing is connected, nothing is transmitted to the output, so that I can say that output voltage is equal to 0. So for the positive half cycle, that is why the output will become 0. It is shown in the dotted lines. So it is simply like 0 here, right? Now look at here. If I am applying a negative half cycle, if I am applying a negative half cycle, this will become negative, which means on the cathode side, I am applying a negative voltage, and this is remains 0. So as I am going on applying negative voltage to the cathode, this diode comes to forward bias, which means the cathode is taking more negative, and the diode becomes positive. So that this diode is forward biased. When this diode is forward biased, whatever the voltage, whatever the input which we are applying here, that is simply transmitted to output. So the output is exactly same as input when the diode D is forward biased. So the simple thing that we need to understand, when the diode D is reverse biased, the output is 0. When the diode D is forward biased, then the output is same as input. So for the negative half cycle is simply transmitted, and positive half cycle is clipped. So you can observe the output, the positive half, all positive halves of the input signal are clipped, eliminated. So the resultant amplitude is simply very less. So that this is called a clipping circuit. Because of the diode, the forward and reverse bias condition, some part of the input signal gets removed, eliminated, clipped. That is why they are called clippers, or you can also call them slices. Slicing is also like cutting, clipping some part. So that is called series positive clippers. Just try to understand series positive clipper, as the name itself indicating positive clipping, which means positive part of the input signal gets clipped. That is called positive clipping. And I am using without reference. There is no reference voltage here, so there is no note to worry about it. That gets clipped at 0 position. Now series positive clippers with positive reference. I am connecting a reference voltage here, positive reference voltage here. If I connect some positive reference voltage here, what will happen? Let us apply the same analysis like when I am applying a positive half cycle, what will happen? If I am applying positive half cycle, this cathode side will become positive. And I am already applying a positive reference voltage here. This is positive and this is positive. Understand, when this positive voltage is less than this positive voltage, then the diode is in forward bias. I am applying positive half cycle, and this is also a positive. Both are positive. But if this VR is more than this input voltage, as I am going on increasing this voltage, input voltage, thus input voltage goes on increasing more than this reference voltage called VR. When the input voltage is more than the reference voltage, then the diode comes to reverse bias condition. When the diode is reverse biased, the output voltage is simply like reference voltage, right? So that is equal to a reference voltage. So that I can say that the voltage above the reference voltage is clipped off. But when I'm applying the negative half cycle, that is the voltage, input voltage, the less than the reference voltage, the diode D is forward biased, so that whatever the input which we are applying, the same thing comes to output. So the output voltage is equal to input voltage for the input voltage less than reference voltage. So that the portion above the reference voltage is clipped off. That is why it is positive clipper above the reference voltage. So if I'm applying positive reference voltage, the voltage above the reference voltage gets clipped off, and that is shown in the figure here. So you can also draw the transfer characteristics. So it is very important, students, try to note it. Sometimes in the examination he is asking us to draw the transfer characteristics of a clipping circuit. So we need to understand, we need to draw these transfer characteristics by using the equations, like what will happen if you are applying the input voltage less than VR. If you are applying the input voltage less than VR, the diode D is in reverse, forward bias condition. When it is forward bias condition, output voltage is equal to input voltage. If the output voltage is equal to input voltage, then slope will becomes 1. When slope is 1, then you need to draw the line like this, that is shown here. Look at here. If the input voltage is less than VR, the slope is 1, because output voltage is equal to input voltage, right? But that is not shown here. Observe this slight line. Slope is equal to 1 for V less than 1. But for V greater than the reference voltage, the diode gets reverse biased. So output voltage is equal to only a reference voltage. So that we will have a line here like this. Here actually we need to represent VR here. This right line is exactly at VR. So that is the case. That is a way of drawing the transfer characteristics. The transfer characteristics are drawn from your equations by understanding what will happen to the output voltage when the input voltage is less than reference voltage. If greater than reference voltage, what will happen? By taking that equations, you need to calculate the slope. If the slope is equal to 1, then you need to draw like a ramp signal. And if slope is equal to 0, then you need to draw like a straight line like this. So these are the transfer characteristics which are important. Try to take a note. So as I am moving now fast, because all the things are like that only. Series positive clippers with negative reference. In the previous slide, I am using a what we call it as a positive reference, but here it is a negative reference here, minus plus. Look at here, I am applying a positive signal here, and this is a negative signal here. Anode side negative voltage, cathode side positive voltage. The diode gets reverse biased. No voltage is transmitted. So positive cycle, there is no voltage transmitted because the diode gets reverse biased. As you are going on reducing the input voltage to, it is moving to the negative half cycle. When it crosses the negative reference voltage, the cathode side negative voltage, which means we are applying on the input side, goes on increasing than reference voltage. Reference voltage is negative. This voltage also going on increasing, so that this diode gets forward biased. So as you are increasing the input voltage negatively than reference voltage, then the diode D comes to forward bias. So that when it is forward biased, output voltage is equal to input voltage. So only this part of the wave gets transmitted. When the diode is reverse biased, the output voltage is exactly equal to the reference voltage, right? So that is why only this part is simply transmitted. So this is the case. So try to understand. I may be moving fast because it's almost completed. Negative series clippers. Negative series clippers in the sense, try to understand this term that is called negative clippers, which means a negative part need to be removed. That is above the reference voltage or below the reference voltage. Try to understand. So without reference voltage is this. I need to clip the negative part of this. I am applying the positive half cycle. The diode gets forward biased. When the diode is forward biased, output voltage is equal to input. So that for the positive half cycle, the diode is forward biased. The entire positive half cycle transmitted to output. But see, if I apply the negative half cycle, what will happen? If I apply the negative half cycle, diode gets reverse biased. When it is reverse biased, it's open circuited. Output is equal to 0. That is why there is no wave transmitted. I am drawing a line at exactly 0. So the negative part is clip. That is why it is called negative clippers. But I am using a series version. That is why it is series negative clippers. There may be some changes. If you find anything wrong in this, you can object me. You can notify me at least. You can see here series negative clippers again here with reference without with positive reference and with negative reference. With positive reference above that is transmitted, below reference is clipped, and negative reference above reference is transmitted, below reference is clipped. And comes to the shunt version. In the previous case, I have just connected diode here. Now I am connecting diode in shunt, so that I am measuring the output voltage across this diode, so that I can understand easily here. I am applying some input here. The input that I am applying here is a sinusoidal. For the positive half cycle, the diode gets forward biased. When the diode gets forward biased, what will happen? It gets short circuited. I am measuring the output voltage across the diode, which means across the short circuit. The voltage across short circuit will become 0. In the previous case, for the series clippers, when the diode is forward biased, the wave gets transmitted. But here, when the diode is forward biased, the output voltage across that will become 0. That means no wave is transmitted. The wave gets transmitted when the diode is reverse biased in this case. Remember this point. For the series clippers, when the diode is forward biased, the input is transmitted. But for the shunt clippers, when the diode is reverse biased, then only the input is transmitted. So in this case, for the positive half cycle, the diode forward biased, output will become 0. For the negative cycle, the diode gets reverse biased, so that output is equal to input, because we are measuring the output voltage across open circuit. So positive portion clip and negative portion is transmitted. Again, shunt positive clippers with positive reference, negative reference. You can see here positive reference voltage, positive clippers. Positive portion is removed. You can apply the analysis also. Positive, and this is the reference voltage. If you are applying the input voltage greater than this reference voltage, then this diode comes to forward bias. When this diode is forward biased, then the output voltage is only a reference voltage. When you are applying the voltage less than this reference voltage, this diode gets reverse biased. Only when this diode is reverse biased, the wave gets transmitted to output. So this is what shown here. Some similarly, this also, if you want, I will share the slides. Just try to analyze on this negative clippers. Also negative. These are the shunt clippers with some positive reference, and there is a transfer characteristics. So this is the way of drawing the transfer characteristics. First, we need to understand what will happen if you apply input voltage less than reference voltage. What will happen greater than reference voltage? Input voltage is greater than reference voltage. Then we need to calculate the slope of it. If the slope is equal to 1, then it's like a ramp signal. When the slope is 1, the wave gets transmitted. When the slope is 0, then wave gets clipped. The output voltage is equal to reference voltage. That's the thing that we need to understand. Again, shunt negative clippers, negative portion is removed. You can apply and you can understand. Shunt negative clippers again, we can understand. So some examples are given here. Some examples you can understand. The transfer characteristics and output shape is also given. Please concentrate 1 or 2 minutes on this and you can understand. If anything goes wrong here, I just copied it from the internet source. Just tell me whether is there any problem or any wrong in this slide. I don't think there is some wrong. So I'm moving to the next slide. I just gave all these things for your reference, because he is giving some circuit and he is asking us to draw the output shape for it by explaining that. So that some single-ended clippings. Yes, anybody want to ask anything? If not, please mute your mics. So these are some examples given to you. I will share all these documents to you after completion of this presentation. Now let us come to double-ended clippers. In the previous slides, we gone through only single-ended clippers. In the single-ended clippers, only positive portion or negative portion of the input signal gets clipped or removed. But in the double-ended clippers, you can call them as a two clipping at two independent levels, or you can also call them as a double-ended clippers. For this purpose, I am using two different diodes, D1 and D2, and two reference voltages, VR1 and VR2. One is a positive reference voltage, another one is a negative reference voltage, and the conditions are also given here. Now let me explain these conditions. What will happen if the input voltage is greater than the reference voltage called VR1? So VR1 is already a positive voltage. I am applying the voltage more than that, which means I am applying a positive voltage. If I am applying the input voltage greater than this VR1, this diode D1 comes to forward bias. What will happen to D2 at the same time? D2 is off condition because this is a negative voltage. I am applying a positive voltage on the cathode side, so that it will become reverse bias. So that there is no need to worry about D2 comes to off, D1 comes to on condition. When the D1 is on condition, what will happen? This is short circuited. If I measure the output voltage in this case, that voltage is exactly equal to this VR1. So that V0 is equal to VR1. Now I am applying a voltage in between these two, minus VR2 less than Vi less than VR2. That means I am applying input voltage in between these two. In this case, what will happen? Both the diodes comes to off, which means I am applying the input voltage less than this, so that this diode D1 is off, and I am applying the voltage greater than this, so that this diode is also in off condition. So that in the second case is very important. If minus VR2 is less than Vi less than VR1, then output voltage is equal to Vi, because both the diodes are in this off condition in this case. And the last case, if the input voltage is much negative than negative reference voltage, then diode D2 comes to on condition, output voltage is equal to minus VR1. So if you draw the transfer characteristics for this, you can understand. So this is the circuit. So if I draw the transfer characteristics, in the case, just look at my mouse pointer if possible, if it is visible to you. In between this, if the input voltage is between minus VR1, minus VR2 and VR1, the slope will become 1 because output voltage is equal to input voltage there. The slope becomes, when the slope is 1, the input gets transmitted to output. So that is why the output is transmitted here. But above that reference voltage VR1, that wave gets clipped. And below this negative reference voltage, the wave gets clipped. So that is why this is the sinusoidal signal that I transmitted, and I find the output waveform like this, which means the positive portion of the wave and the negative portion of the wave both gets clipped because of this double-ended clippers, right? So this is the thing that we need to understand. By using it clipping at two independent levels means we are clipping at two different levels. In the previous case, we are able to clip at positive portion or at the negative portion only, but by using a double-ended clippers, we can clip at two different levels of the input. So this is one example of a double-ended clippers. You can use many examples for this like this. So these are some double-ended clipping circuits. So this I can you can concentrate on all these things. You can see here GNR diode. You know the application of a GNR diode or the functionality of a GNR diode. How the GNR diode works as you can see here, the input voltage is applied here. This is a GNR voltage. GNR voltage, I am applying a positive voltage. What will happen? Nothing. You are able. When you are applying a positive voltage, this GNR diode is in reverse bias condition. When the GNR diode is in reverse bias condition, as you are going on applying the input voltage at one particular point, a GNR breakdown will occur. That we call it as a VZ, GNR breakdown. When the GNR breakdown occurs, the voltage across that particular GNR diode remains constant even though you are increasing the input voltage. That is what happened here. So as you are increasing the input voltage more than this input voltage, that gets settled at GNR breakdown. As you are reducing the input voltage again at that particular point, again the diode is in reverse bias condition, that is less than GNR breakdown. It just allows the signal to pass through. Again, when you are applying a negative signal here, it is like forward bias. When it is forward bias, the output voltage across the diode remains 0.7 like that. That is why it is 0.7 is considered. Consider it like a practical case. Similarly, when the diode is reverse biased, like change direction is changed like this, then the things. So if I use two Zener diodes like this, then clipping at two different levels will occur here. So the cases are also given here. I will share all the slides to you after completion of this session. Just concentrate and learn from the slides. So these are the double-ended clippers. You can clip at any place, wherever you want to place, wherever you want to clip, and wherever you want to transmit. You can transmit by using all the things. Okay. If anybody want me to explain anything, you can stop and you can ask me for explanation. Now let us move to transistor clippers. Till now we gone through what we call it as a diode clippers. That means diode is the main element to clip at any portion. But now we are moving to transistor clippers. So transistor is the element to clip at some particular place. Now this is the circuit. When you are using, if you are using a transistor, in this particular configuration, you can use this as a clipping circuit. Now look at here. You all know what are the different regions of operations of a transistor. A transistor operates in three different regions. They are cutoff region, active region, and saturation region. When the transistor is operated in cutoff region and saturation region with a negligible active region, then it is called a transistor switch. That comes under switching conditions. Now, in the clipping conditions, on and off conditions, we need to operate in three different regions. So, how can we operate a transistor as a clipper? We need to see. Let me explain with some graphical representation. So when a question in the examination regarding this transistor clipper, we need to draw these graphs and we need to explain. Let me explain what is this graph regarding. I think you are all aware of all the equations, current equations of a transistor. What is the current equation? If I want to calculate current equation, collector current IC is equal to HFE into IB. That depends on base current. Let me give you. Let me explain this input signal. I am applying input signal in this circuit. That is Vi is given here. So I am applying input signal. When I am applying input signal here, that is converting into a base current. I need to calculate the base current from the input voltage. I am applying this input voltage so that I can get base current. From the input voltage, I am going to get a base current. When I am applying input voltage, I am directly not going to get the base current. Initially, it is taking, it needs a minimum current so that up to the time, sometime you are not going to get any base current. But after some time, the base current starts. It goes on increasing as the voltage increases. So as the input voltage increases, the base current is also increases. So this is the base current. So we need a base current. Base current is very important to us. So the base current increases here. Now I am going to calculate, I am going to draw the graph for collector current. So as the base current increases, what will happen to collector current? Collector current also increases because IC is equal to HFE into IB. As the base current increases, collector current also increases. That is what given here. Look at here. This is important. Now, as the base current increases, the collector current is also increasing. But at one particular point, even though the base current is increasing, you are not going to get the collector current because as you are going on increasing the base current, the collector current reaches to saturation. Once the collector current reaches to saturation, even though you are increasing the base current, there is no increment in the collector current. The collector current saturated. It remains there itself. That is what happening here. Just look at this my mouse pointer if it is visible to you. As I am increasing the base current, after some point, that is called ICS. Once the current reaches to the saturation current, that is called ICS, even though the base current is increased, the current is not going to be increased. It remains saturated even though the base current is increased. So that means that is what we are calling it as a clipped portion. So here we are talking in terms of current. So this portion gets clipped off. Now, if the base current decreases, the collector current decreases like this. But except once the collector current reaches saturation, even though you are increasing base current, there is no increment in the collector current. That's we call it as a clipped portion. So if you convert that into output voltage like this, I can simply calculate. So output voltage is equal to VCC minus IC into RC. So VCC minus IC into RC. You can see here is IC is increasing, so that VCC minus IC into RC. When IC is increasing, the negative portion increases. VCC minus high voltage. So this voltage goes on decreasing from VCC. VCC minus IC into RC. IC increases, so that this value goes on decreasing. In terms of voltage, this is called a clipped portion. As per the requirements, whatever the voltage that we are interested, or the current that we are interested to use, you can use. So you can find the clipped portion in the current and the voltage as well. So this, in this manner, the transistor works as a clip. So the next one is a emitter coupled clipper. Here in this case, in the emitter coupled clippers, we are using two transistors. The emitters of the two transistors are coupled and is connected to a negative voltage called minus VA. So remember, the base of the second transistor is taking some fixed voltage, and the base of the first transistor is taking a variable voltage, that is a sinusoidal signal that is applied here. As this is a fixed voltage and this is going on increasing, if it gets starts from this. In one case, when one transistor is in on condition, other must be in off condition. Like see here, when Q1 Q1 off, Q2 on condition. Initially, when the input voltage is 0 or a negative, Q2 base is taking VBB, that voltage is enough to bring this into conduction. So when Q2 is in on and Q1 is in off condition, then the output voltage is calculated by using this formula, that is VCC minus IC2 into RC. Now, when the input voltage is going on increasing, what will happen? The transistor Q1 coming to conduction. When the transistor starts conducting, Q2 starts decreasing its conduction. What will happen? They are going to meet at one particular point. As Q1 conduction increases, Q2 conduction decreases. They are going to meet at one particular point. That is the point where the input gets transmitted to output. That is simply in this location, where the slope is equal to 1 in the transfer characteristics. Look at this transfer characteristics, VIL and VIU. In between these two, the input signal gets transmitted in this emitter coupled, and the remaining portions, the wave gets clipped off, right? So below this clipped off, above this clipped off. In between this, the wave gets transmitted. How the wave gets transmitted is simply shown here. So this is about emitter coupled. Sir.
Yeah. Are you completing this session now?
Maybe within 10 minutes, sir. Within 10 minutes, sir.
Okay, no.
Sir, your voice not clear, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 o'clock students need to attend another session. Is it audible?
Okay, sir, I will complete it. Audible, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So if there is any pending content that you need to discuss, then you can do it in the next session.
Okay, sir.
Next week. Okay. No problem. And students, please understand that today afternoon you have management science class. So 2 o'clock, Dr. Faruqi will be discussing his revision classes. So make sure that everyone is attending without fail. We are monitoring your attendance. Attendance sheets are being shared to you, and please ensure that every one of you are attending without fail. Okay, right? Thank you.
Students, be patient for about 5 to 10 minutes. I will conclude within 10 minutes. I know it's not possible to listen to something after completion of time. Even I know that pain. I will conclude this second unit within this 5 minutes. Let me explain what is this clamping circuit. Clamping circuits are like clipping circuits. Clipping circuits are used to clip some portion, but whereas the clamping circuits are used to shift the extremities of the input waveform to some level. So the DC levels of that particular waveform is going to be shifted to another level. In this clamping circuits also, we are having two circuits, positive clampers and negative clampers. The positive clampers also called as negative peak clampers, and negative clampers also called positive peak clampers. Yes, I will conclude with the next slide. Just concentrate on this slide. I will tell you the important point here. See here, when I'm applying, this is the circuit which we are using for the clamping purpose. And this purpose, the capacitor is used and diode is used. Initially, capacitor acts as a circuit, we already know. When initially, that means voltage across capacitor cannot become zero instantaneously, which means the sudden changes are not accepted. When I am applying input voltage at time t equal to 0, this capacitor short circuited. That voltage, positive voltage applied to the diode, that diode gets forward biased. Now this capacitor finds a short circuit path to get charged. So when I am applying a positive half cycle, this diode gets charged. This capacitor gets charged. This capacitor charges to a maximum value called Vm, because the input peak value is Vm. When the capacitor reaches to peak value, I am just trying to reduce my input value. When the input value gets reducing, the capacitor remains there, and now this diode gets reverse biased, because I am just reducing my input voltage like this, so that whatever we are applying here, that's going to be coming here. Now if I find the output voltage across here, I am applying the output voltage, the capacitor gets charged to a maximum value, so the voltage available across this capacitor is Vm. Now if I measure the output voltage across this diode, what is the output voltage? I am applying some input voltage Vi. There exists a voltage across capacitor, which I can say voltage across capacitor. Input voltage minus voltage across this capacitor will give you output voltage. This is the total applied voltage, and there exists a drop across this capacitor. So this input voltage minus voltage across capacitor will give you the output voltage. That is what given here as a formula. V0 is equal to Vi minus Vm, so that I can write. So for different values of Vm, if Vi is equal to 0, then V0 becomes Vm. Vi is equal to Vm, V0 will become 0. Vi is equal to minus Vm. So if for different values of input, I can get values of this. So if I substitute and draw the graphical representation for this, you can get the output waveform. Just observe the input and output waveform. Input positive peak is Vm, negative peak is minus Vm. That is about 0 reference level. There exists a positive peak and negative peak. But in the output, you can see here, the entire waveform is shifted to negative. That is entirely below 0 reference level. The waveform is simply clamped. You can shift it to 0 reference level. That is the purpose of a clamping circuit. We are we are shifting the positive extremity of the wave to the below 0 reference level. So that is the purpose of using clamping level. So since this is a negative clamper, positive peak of the wave is simply clamped to negative. Clamping is done to the negative level. Similarly, when having a positive clampers like this, you have modified clamping circuit. Modified clamping circuit used to generally, when you are suddenly reducing the input to another level, it is not possible to the circuit to reduce its amplitude in the output because of the capacitor. That is why we are placing a resistor here. So then that is possible to reduce the input voltage. After some cycles, it will goes to the negative level. So that is the thing. Similarly, you are having a positive clampers. In the previous case, the input is clamped to negative, but in this case, the input is clamped to positive. Above 0 reference level will occur here. So the same analysis is applied so that you can observe it. So that is this is the modified circuit. Before modifying, there is no diode across, there is no resistor across diode. After modifying, there is a diode across this. Why we are modifying the circuit? Because if the input suddenly, if the amplitude of the input suddenly changed, that is not possible to change the output amplitude without resistance. That is the reason we are placing it. So that after some cycles, it will comes to the desired value. Now this is the clamping. What will happen if you take a source and diode resistances into account? Then the resultant circuit, source resistance RNs, and when the diode gets forward biased, then we are taking RF into account. Then the resultant circuits will become like this. So this is the last thing, that is the clamping circuit theorem. When you are applying a square wave to a clamping circuit as an input, then there exists a shifting of the waveform like this. This is shown here. This shaded area AF is a area under the output curve in the forward direction. This shaded area AR is a area under the output curve in the reverse direction. So when the diode is in forward bias direction, forward current is flowing. Then I calculated, write the formula for forward current. Then I calculate the charge gained by the capacitor in this case. Then the charge gained by the capacitor, I will get it as AF by RF. That is from this equation. That is for the duration 0 less than t less than t1. and from the duration t1 less than t1 plus q2, you will get this area. Then you will get the charge lost is AR by A. So under the balancing under the steady state conditions, charge gain must be charge lost. So then you will get AF by AR is equal to RF by RR. So this is the statement of a clamping circuit theorem. So under the steady state condition is very important. The ratio of area under the output voltage curve in the forward direction to the area AR under the output voltage in the reverse direction is equal to the ratio of RF by RR. So this is about clamping circuit theorem. So that's all about first 2 units. Students, be concentrate. And the first unit, it's very easy if you understand KVL and how to apply KVL to a circuit, and how to apply a step input to the circuit, and how to apply inputs to clampers and clipper circuits. So that's all about first 2 units. Actually, I plan to cover the 3rd unit, but it killed almost my time. Once again, sorry for taking extra 10 minutes, and thanks for your patient listening for about 1.5 hours. Thank you once again, and I am concluding my second session. Bye bye.